Hello. This morning I found out that one of my good friends reported me to the government, informed on me. This was a guy who celebrated New Year's Eve in my house just a few weeks ago. It was, of course, to do with tracking COVID. He was somebody who'd injected himself as many times as possible, and now he is sick. Something about those characters in the false self is that they don't feel very good. They are unhappy. They don't quite understand because to themselves they feel like I, and so they act like I. Like a real person, but then they just land on their face again and they start lying to cover it up. All these people that we know that are the false self, they are liars, they are disorientated, they cannot explain their own ignorance, they don't understand what's going on inside of them. I described that last time, that these characters come from the break in the middle story and that excess energy leaking upwards and becoming encrusted, and so people are not able to go back down, and they certainly are not able to be the real person, because to be a real person you have to have the triad in the middle story. It's a painful thing, and these people will betray you and they will not understand, and truly it's the horror of living here on this planet, is to have to engage with these people who are good and evil, who are disorientated, who are broken, to whom it is very difficult to explain anything. It's painful dealing with them, and in fact I would say that they emanate fear. Somehow inside they know something badly is wrong, and they can't understand it, to the point where they're desperate to be believed or to be taken seriously, so desperately that they'll prove it to you by injecting themselves. They're so desperate because of course they don't feel solid inside, because everything is wrong and it happened long ago. We are like crops. We're like wheat. We're like any creature that exists generation after generation. Evil things happened hundreds of years ago, and it has flown out. So I'll read a bit from Gurdjieff. It is just this totality of childish experiencings, as they might be called, arising and flowing automatically in the ordinary man, which on the one hand make up and sustain his life, and on the other hand leave him neither the possibility nor the time to see and feel reality. If the ordinary contemporary man was somehow to sense or to remember, if only in thought, that at a definite known date, for instance tomorrow, a week or a month, or even a year or two hence, he would die, and die for certain, what would remain, one asks, of all that until then had filled up and constituted his life? Well, I wonder. Evola says that we live in the era of subversion. Everything's been subverted to such an extent, it's hard for people to take anything seriously. If you tell somebody that they are going to die, I don't think it would mean much to them anymore. If you tell somebody that they're going to live, it wouldn't mean much either. They wouldn't believe you, they wouldn't have any context with which to understand, because they live in a world without any material. It is only when you engage with life honestly, again and again and again, that you develop a kind of inner knowledge of the world that you can trust, and on the basis of that knowledge you can gauge things, life and death. But the subversion that has happened in the last maybe 300 years, and especially is accelerating now, is to such an extent it's hard for people to understand anything, to believe anything, or to have any ground at all. But the true ground is always the soul. And the second ground is the earth, because it is only the minds and the collective society of human beings that is degenerate. The earth is good, the sun is good, the wind and the mountains and the valleys and the seas are all good. They're as pure now as they have ever been. And I drink in their energy with Qigong every day, and I feel whole, I feel home. I'm grateful to those practices. I think without doing physical practices, you got no chance, no matter what you do. I commend doing physical practices, particularly Qigong. I think is very good. I will continue. Precisely that such a question may not arise, great nature, having become convinced that in the common presence of most people there are no longer any factors for meritorious manifestations proper to three-centered beings, has providentially and wisely protected them by allowing the arising in their common presence of various consequences of those properties unbecoming to them, which in the absence of proper actualizations permit them not to perceive or sense reality. And great nature was constrained to adapt herself to such an abnormality in the objective sense, because owing to the conditions of ordinary life established by men themselves, the deterioration in quality of the radiations required of them for higher common cosmic purposes insistently demanded for the maintenance of equilibrium, an adaptation in the number of arisings and in the duration of these lives. Thus it is clear that life is given to men, not for themselves but for serving these higher cosmic purposes, and that is why great nature watches over this life, so that it may flow in a more or less tolerable form, and take care that it should not prematurely cease. Do we also, we men, feed, watch over, look after, and make the lives of our sheep and pigs